Is it safe to travel to Malaysia right now? It's a question that comes up often, especially among travelers who are captivated by the country's diversity but haven't yet experienced it for themselves. Malaysia is one of Southeast Asia's most fascinating places, a country where gleaming towers share the skyline with colonial architecture, where Chinese, Malay, Indian, and indigenous cultures have woven together over centuries to create something uniquely Malaysian. It's also a destination where safety is often taken for granted. Yet, like anywhere else in the world, it's important to understand the realities behind the postcard-perfect images. I'm Stephen with the Travel Safety Network. For over 25 years, I worked across the globe in industrial safety and risk management, helping people and organizations navigate complex environments with confidence. Today, I'm applying that same mindset to travel, because whether you're heading overseas for business or leisure, the smartest trips start with a clear-eyed understanding of where you're going. In this video, we're going to take an in-depth look at what it means to travel safely in Malaysia. We'll explore everything from petty crime to cultural customs, from water and food safety to political and social considerations. We'll talk about which neighborhoods to approach with caution, what you can expect from local transportation, and how to make the most of your visit while minimizing the risks. And stay tuned until the end, because I'll share something about Malaysia that many travelers miss, something that could transform the way you experience the country. To start, it helps to understand that Malaysia is made up of two very different regions. Peninsular Malaysia, where cities like Kuala Lumpur, Penang, and Johor Bahru are located, and Malaysian Borneo, which includes Sabah and Sarawak. Each region has its own character, landscapes, and challenges, but in many ways, the safety picture is reassuringly consistent. Malaysia has a reputation for being one of Southeast Asia's safer countries, and for most travelers, that reputation is well deserved. Crime does happen here, of course, and it takes the same forms you'll find in any major urban area. Petty theft and opportunistic crime are the main concerns, especially in crowded markets, tourist areas, and public transportation hubs. In Kuala Lumpur, bag snatching by thieves on motorbikes is one of the more common incidents, and it can happen quickly. The best approach is to carry bags on the side furthest from the street. Keep them zipped and stay alert if you're walking along busy roads. Violent crime is rare, particularly against foreigners, but like anywhere, it pays to exercise situational awareness, especially after dark. One aspect of safety in Malaysia that often surprises first-time visitors is how socially and politically stable most of the country feels. Malaysia is a constitutional monarchy with a diverse population, and while politics can be contentious behind the scenes, the impact on tourists is usually minimal. That said, there have been occasional demonstrations and protests in urban centers, particularly in Kuala Lumpur. These gatherings are usually peaceful, but they can cause disruptions and are best avoided if you see crowds forming. Culturally, Malaysia is an intricate mosaic of ethnicities and religions. The majority Malay Muslim population coexists with significant Chinese and Indian communities, and a large number of indigenous peoples in Borneo. This diversity is part of what makes Malaysia such a rewarding place to visit, but it also requires sensitivity. For example, dress modestly when visiting mosques or rural areas, and be aware that public displays of affection are frowned upon in many contexts. Social attitudes toward LGBTQ+ travelers can be more conservative than in some neighboring countries. While Kuala Lumpur and Penang are relatively cosmopolitan, homosexuality is technically criminalized under colonial-era laws, though prosecutions are rare. Discretion is advised, especially in rural areas or when interacting with authorities. One thing many travelers ask is about racial dynamics. Malaysia is proud of its diversity, but like any multicultural society, there can be underlying tensions, particularly around politics and economic opportunity. As a visitor, you are unlikely to encounter overt discrimination, but it's wise to be respectful of all communities and avoid wading into sensitive discussions about ethnic or religious issues. Let's talk about health and hygiene. Tap water in Malaysia is generally treated and safe in larger cities, but most locals and experienced travelers still prefer bottled or filtered water, especially outside major urban areas. Bottled water is inexpensive and widely available, and it's smart to use it for brushing your teeth and making ice. Food safety in Malaysia is generally very good. This is a country famous for street food, and dishes like nasi lemak, satay, and char kway teow are part of why people come here in the first place. In busy hawker centers and street markets, you'll find standards are surprisingly high, especially if there's a constant turnover of customers. The golden rule applies. If the stall is busy and the food is being cooked fresh, it's usually safe to enjoy. One area where travelers sometimes get caught off guard is local transportation. Kuala Lumpur has a modern, efficient public transit system, including the LRT and monorail. These systems are clean and generally safe, even late into the evening. However, outside major cities, public transport can be less predictable, and services may run infrequently. Taxis are plentiful, but it's important to be aware of pricing. Metered taxis are required by law, but in practice, some drivers prefer to negotiate a flat fare. If you're in doubt, use ride-hailing apps like Grab, which are widely used across Malaysia and offer transparent pricing. In tourist-heavy areas like Georgetown and Penang, or parts of Kota Kinabalu, you may encounter drivers offering tours or unsolicited services. Be cautious about accepting these offers unless you can verify their legitimacy. There are also areas of Malaysia where additional caution is recommended. Parts of Eastern Sabah, particularly near the border with the southern Philippines, have seen sporadic incidents of kidnapping and armed robbery targeting coastal resorts and boats. The Malaysian government has increased security in these areas, but many governments, including the US State Department, Global Affairs Canada, the UK's Foreign Office, and Australia's Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, continue to advise against non-essential travel to Eastern Sabah's coastal regions. If your plans include diving or exploring islands off the east coast of Borneo, research current advisories carefully and consider registered tour operators who have enhanced security measures. Another aspect of safety is environmental and natural risks. Malaysia's climate is hot and humid, with heavy rainfall during the monsoon seasons. Flash flooding can occur, particularly in rural areas and some parts of Kuala Lumpur. If you're traveling during the wet season, monitor local news for weather alerts and allow extra time for travel delays. Politically, Malaysia remains stable, but you should be aware that the country has strict laws regarding criticism of the monarchy and religion. Comments on social media that would be considered harmless elsewhere can lead to fines or detention. As a visitor, it's wise to avoid public commentary about domestic politics or royal affairs. If you're arriving in Malaysia by air, you'll find that immigration procedures are usually straightforward. Most travelers receive a visa-free entry stamp for 30 or 90 days, depending on nationality. However, be prepared to show proof of onward travel and accommodation details. Customs officers have the right to inspect luggage and electronic devices, though these checks are relatively uncommon. One of the best ways to enjoy Malaysia safely is to do a little homework before you go. Learn a few phrases of Malay. It's appreciated and often opens doors to warmer interactions. Dress modestly when visiting religious sites. And be mindful that while Malaysia is one of the friendliest places in Asia, it's still a place where respect and situational awareness will go a long way. So is it safe to travel to Malaysia? For the vast majority of travelers, the answer is yes, if you approach your trip with preparation and cultural sensitivity. The country offers incredible variety: ultra-modern cities, ancient rainforests, idyllic beaches, and some of the best cuisine anywhere in Asia. The risks are manageable and often no greater than those you'd face in other major travel destinations. The key is to stay alert to your surroundings, use reputable transportation, and respect the customs that make Malaysia unique. And here's the surprise I promised you. Many people think of Malaysia only as a gateway to Thailand or Singapore, or as a stopover en route to Borneo's rainforests. But if you take the time to explore, you'll find some of Southeast Asia's most rewarding cultural experiences here. From the UNESCO heritage streets of Georgetown and Penang, to the old port city of Malacca and the vibrant neighborhoods of Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia has a depth and authenticity that often catches visitors off guard, in the best possible way. I'm Stephen with the Travel Safety Network. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it with anyone considering a trip to Malaysia. And stay tuned for my upcoming videos, where I'll help you navigate more destinations with the clarity and confidence you deserve. Until next time, stay curious, stay prepared, and remember, safety is your travel superpower.